Y'all are looking at all the games you're losing, and you're like, you know what? The coaching staff, it has nothing to do with it. Nope, it's just the general manager. Let's roll it back. And you know what? Dolphins going Dolphin. But speaking of the Dolphins, TD, y'all got blown out. So why don't you tell us what happened?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Kobe. That ain't even news anymore. Nobody care about the Dolphins game on Thursday. We lost. We knew we were going to lose, okay? And at the end of the day, we actually won from losing. We were able to move on from our general manager, who's been a New England Patriots spy for 25 years. Y'all laughing. The day he left the Patriots and came to the Dolphins organization back in like 2001 or whatever was when the Patriots dynasty started. That's when it all started. And we've been sabotaged ever since he's been a part of the organization. So he's gone now. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson put a number on us, 1-2 stepped on us, and we couldn't keep up. Defense played solid early in the game and then gave it up in the second half. We're just outmatched. We don't have enough on the roster, and we can't beat a team like Baltimore. So that's it. There ain't much to say. We're not worried about the fact that we lost. We kind of understand it now. We're moving on to better days. Now it's time to catch up to the Bills and the Patriots.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I don't think that anybody was shocked from the outcome of this game. Like, this Baltimore Ravens team is going to win the AFC North this year. It's just spelled out of where they are. A healthy quarterback is back. Funny enough, by adding that new safety from the LA Chargers into the mix, they have been able to completely shift their defensive mentality, and they look a hell of a lot different throughout the past couple of weeks since he has been instilled into this overall defense. I mean, as far as the Miami Dolphins are concerned, like, this is very much what it is. They are in a rebuild. I imagine that Jalen Phillips this morning was not the first move of departures from this organization. I think we're going to see at least 2 more names go tomorrow. My bet is going to be Jalen Waddle, maybe Minkah Fitzpatrick, maybe Bradley Chubb, who knows. But I'm very interested to see if Miami ultimately ends up keeping their word and sticking with Mike McDaniel for the remainder of the season. Like, who knows? Maybe with the Buffalo Bills go out there and beat him so bad that he ultimately ends up getting fired. Then we won't know. Go off. Connor, what did you think of this Ravens and Miami Dolphins game?
Yeah, when it comes to this game, guys, as much as it pains me to say this, I have to agree with TD. This is a game that I think nobody expected the Dolphins to be in. This is a game where Lamar Jackson had multiple weeks and a full bye week to recover from an injury that left him sidelined and left Baltimore at a significant disadvantage for the prior 3 weeks. So I thought this was a win that Baltimore needed, not only for their locker room, but also for their playoff chances and to really stay in that race and get back on the right track before the end of the season. And I think firing Chris Grier at this point in the year was an incredible move for the Miami Dolphins. And I think holding on to Mike McDaniel, if they do follow through with that word, is the right move as well. I'll tell you why. Now the Dolphins are able to kind of start their search for a new general manager right away. They're able to look at all the names. So once the offseason comes, they have a great idea of who they want to interview, who they want to request, and who they ultimately hire to be the next general manager of this football team. And when it comes to Mike McDaniel, bringing in an interim head coach in the NFL really doesn't work for the long term most of the time. It would only create more drama and headlines around a team that has already been making headlines and being spoken about for the wrong reason. Ride out the rest of the year with Mike McDaniel, then let the new GM pick his head coach. I think that's the process that Miami should follow suit with. And then if you bring in an interim and they string together some wins and they finish with, 7 wins somehow at the end of the year, then you have to worry about the conversation of, well, do we keep the interim head coach like the Raiders got guilt trip into doing with Antonio Pierce a few years ago? We all know how that ended up happening. So at the end of the day, I think everyone expected this result. Great decision by Miami to move on from Chris Grier, and it would be wise to keep Mike McDaniel employed for the rest of the season.
So what you got on that, Colby?
I look at this game, and it's kind of crazy when you actually go back and you look at the stats that this was as much of a blowout as ultimately it was. And The fact that earlier, literally just 5 minutes ago, we were talking about how, based off reports, Mike McDaniels might ultimately be sticking around. And as a Patriots fan, I certainly hope that they do so. But if you're a Dolphins fan, you better hope that they get this guy out of here. I mean, the decision to have Tua throw the ball 40 times, I know in large part of that was because you guys were behind as much as you were, so you had to try to pass your way to get back into this. But throwing the ball 40 times when you don't have Tyreek just is not a recipe to succeed. And you guys were showing some promise there on the ground game. I mean, when you guys were giving Malik Washington some opportunities, and I know he ultimately did fumble, but, he showed some good promise there on the ground. A-Chain was averaging 4.8 yards per carry. And I think the thing about Miami is, that Tua was going to turn the ball over, and he did it yet again in this game. And so when you're asking him to throw the ball 40 times, that's ultimately just a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what showcased itself. I mean, the fact that Baltimore put up 28 points. And honestly, Lamar Jackson was very accurate with the football. He played a good game, but he didn't light up the stat sheet. He didn't do anything spectacular. He had 204 passing yards. He had 4 passing touchdowns, but he only had another 14 yards on the ground. So he really didn't do all that much with under 250 all-purpose yards against you guys. But in classic Miami fashion, you couldn't stop the run. Future New England Patriots running back Derrick Henry goes 19 attempts for 119 yards on you guys. And so, honestly, Miami, this was the type of game where it was going to give you your biggest struggle defensively, and that was stopping the run. And so, at the end of the day, Miami is going to Miami. I think Dolphins fans, you should be happy with the loss at the end of the day. It got your GM fired. Now just hope that you get blown out this fashion next week so that Mike McDaniels is fired next.
Okay.
Let's go on ahead and talk about our good friends, the New England Patriots, all right? Because they ended up beating the Atlanta Falcons in an absolute nail-biter, might I say. Colby, thoughts on the game? Biggest takeaways from your squad? Go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, it was a nail biter. It was probably the biggest nail biter we've had all season long, man. I'm watching all these other teams having 1-point victories, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think my heart could take it. And my heart couldn't. But you know what? It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to be in games like this and come out on the winning side. Because for so many years, Patriots were in games like this, but they were on the losing side, to where I didn't have any hope at the end of the game the Patriots could win these games. But even against a decent team like Atlanta, I felt in my stomach okay, we have a chance. And so I felt that feeling in the pit of my stomach where this could go either way. It's coming down to the wire. One last pass can change how this game goes. But for the first time in so long, my New England Patriots were on the right side of this. I want to be completely honest. And those of you who are going to box score watch will call me a clown in the comment section. But for those who actually watched the game, this should have been the 4th blowout the New England Patriots provided of the season. Ultimately, it didn't happen. And what happens is the reality of so. But the Patriots had a 14-point lead against Atlanta with the ball to finish out the second quarter. Not to mention the fact that the Patriots got the ball to start the third quarter. So they had an opportunity to go up 21 points against Atlanta to end the first half and then receive the ball in the second half, go up 28 points. No pun intended when I say 28 points, but go up 28 points against Atlanta in this game. What happens? They get the ball. They're driving down the field. Michael Onwenu completely whiffs on a block. You have multiple free rushers, including rookie Jalen Walker, come in. Literally, Jalen Walker breathes on Drake May. The ball goes flying. They pick up the ball. Thank God Will Campbell trucks the guy down and pulls him down. But a few plays later, Michael Penix capitalizes in the end zone. And so instead of the Patriots having a 21-point lead going into halftime, now they only have a 7-point lead. But whatever. Patriots come back out. They have the ball to start the second half. Few plays in, Drake May has pressure. He gets flushed outside. He's running. Ball flies out. Thankfully, he picks it up, but that drive ultimately dies because they're stopped well behind the line of scrimmage. And then later in the second half, Drake May, Hunter Henry, not on the same page. Hunter Henry breaks outside. Drake May thinks that he's going to run a go out. One of the few times we don't see those guys on the same page. Drake May throws the ball into a pool of defenders because it was a miscommunication. Jesse Bates, one of the best free safeties in the NFL, picks the ball off. And so really turnovers were just the name of the game. And look, the offensive line hasn't held up. Over the last 2 weeks against Cleveland and against Atlanta, the Patriots offensive line has given up over 10 sacks. Drake May was blitzed on over 48% of his dropbacks against Atlanta. We knew that last week was going to be a big test against Cleveland with the number 1 defense. This was another big defense with a top 3 unit that Atlanta has. #1 secondary in the NFL, top 3 pass rush in the NFL. Ramondre Stevenson didn't play in this game, so the Patriots didn't really have a whole lot of rushing game that they could rely on. They tried it, didn't work out with Travion Henderson. They were forced to pass the ball. It was quite literally the Patriots having to go against the strength of this Atlanta Falcons defense, and it bit them in the butt when it mattered the most. But Patriots still were ultimately able to end up on top.
Ooh, just wait.
Connor, did we get your thoughts on this game?
No. Just
Let's hear your thoughts first.
I'll fire through. Michael Penix, I think, is one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks on a play-to-play, game-to-game basis in the NFL. I was watching Red Zone all of Sunday. The Jets, of course, had a bye week, and there were some throws I'd look at and be like, this guy isn't an NFL caliber quarterback. And then the next play, he uncorks 155 yards down the field for a touchdown. So you see plays that gives you flashes of promise if you're a Falcons fan as to why Michael Penix can be a very good quarterback. And then the following play just entirely contradicts that. As for the Patriots' performance, look, it wasn't pretty. It was a hard-fought game. They would have gone to overtime if a familiar face in Parker Romo didn't miss what would have been a game-tying extra point in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, they won, and good teams find gritty ways to win. That's what the New England Patriots did on Sunday, and I just think this hard-fought win means a lot for the locker room. Now they're 7-2. They have, obviously control of first place in the AFC East, as we've been talking about all show long. This was a huge win for the Patriots, not only because it got them to 7-2 on the year, but the way they fought and the way they battled after, you're coming off a slew of games where you were blown out, where they blew the opposing team out, against the Browns, against the Titans, and then a little closer of one against the Saints, the narrow one against the Bills. But I think against the Falcons, this was a big test for New England, to test their grit, to test their fire, and they passed that test with a 24-23 win.
Let's go ahead and transition over to the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs game real fast. Let's talk about this one. All right. So in all seriousness, I needed this Buffalo Bills team to show me that they had a semblance of their 2024 squad, and by God, they did. All right. Sean McDermott taking over play calling going into the second half of the Atlanta Falcons game has really paid its dividends for this defense. It looks completely different. It looks like that the guys are trusting the calls that are being brought into focus. And this Buffalo Bills defense pitched a perfect game against this Kansas City Chiefs high-flying offense. Yes. For the past 3 weeks, this was the #1 offense in the NFL for all advanced metrics, EPA, DVOA, you name it. You pressure Patrick Mahomes 28 times. You end up holding him to a completion percentage of close to about 44%, which is by far among the lowest of his career. Mm-hmm. Some of the best disguise coverages I have seen from this unit. It's clear that Sean McDermott cannot give play calling abilities and responsibilities back to Babbage all season long. I love seeing particular players step up, a lot of which that were public enemies #1 for the Buffalo Bills. Cole Bishop has been a man on fire for the past 2 weeks. As far as Taylor Rapp is concerned, like Colby mentioned earlier, dude was a liability for us all season. He was awful. He was among one of the worst players on the field. Surprisingly enough, when Jordan Poyer comes back, I'm not sure if Cole Bishop is just more comfortable running with Jordan Poyer, but his play has been absolutely exceptional. Had 4 pass breakups, 7 tackles. He sent Travis Kelce into the damn shadow realm with that one tackle on that one end zone attempt on Travis Kelce. So, he was a man possessed. Shout out to Maxwell Harrison. Dude did exactly what we drafted him to do. Take away the speed guy. Watching him go stride for stride with the fastest wide receiver in the NFL and then also picking off Pat Mahomes was just the cherry on top. This defense is really moving. As far as missing out on Ed Oliver and Michael Hoyt, both of those guys played 2 games so far this season, and this defensive line was still top 3 in pressure percentage. Hoyt and Ed Oliver make this D-line elite. Without them, it is a great defensive line. And compared to what Buffalo has had to deal with from their defensive line throughout the McDermott and the Bean era, great. I will take it each and every single day of the week because that has been one of our weaknesses. Love this defense. It is moving. Through the past 2 weeks after the bye, you are looking at the second best secondary in the NFL throughout the past 2 games and the 5th best run defense in the league. This has to do with play calling, and this has to do with run fits, and this has to do with like pressure packages. Love what I see from this defense. Let's continue it. As far as this offense is concerned, it goes to show you how effective and how important Dalton Kincaid is to this pass game. A lot of Bills fans always say, like, we need this wide receiver that could open up everybody else. Statistics show that Dalton Kincaid is that guy. Like, we finally saw a downfield passing game where Josh was connecting on multiple 30 yards downfield, 40 yards downfield, a lot of it to the tight ends. James Cook on an absolute heater. He ended up putting up 100 yards against the run defense that has not allowed a 100-yard rusher in over 27 games. His speed, his vision, he's one of the best backs in the NFL. He deserves Saquon Barkley money. It's crazy to say, but he deserves Saquon Barkley money all along. Same thing with this offensive line, doing their job, top 3 in the league, and Josh just ended up saving one of his best games for a competition like this. So, great win from this Bills squad. Like, quite simply, we just outcoached this team. We outplayed this team in every single metric. Miss me with the whole thing that Kansas City wasn't taking it seriously because it was the Bills and they wanted to save it for the playoffs. No team is going to save anything for the playoffs when you're sitting in third place in your division and knowing that you lose that game drops you 5-4 and out of the playoff race. This was just the Buffalo Bills are the better football team, and we ended up proving that. And it's a big win. We needed this win, and now we're on to the Miami Dolphins. And I cannot wait for 7-2.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start by addressing the whole piece about the Buffalo Bills, whether they're good enough or not this year. Yes, they are. And you're correct, Dan. They are better than the Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills, from a matchup standpoint, are better than the Chiefs. But this is what the Bills built for. The Bills were building for a well-rounded team, but that well-roundedness kept getting knocked down. And then you started to customize. We need players that can cover the crossing routes. We need players that can attack this. We need a better run game. This is how we'll beat the Chiefs. And you spent 3 years trying to figure that out, and you figured it out last year, if you ask me. Okay? But you're actually following through with it, I believe, completely this year, because even in the playoffs, I think you would beat the Chiefs now. I just think that you've taken that next step to know that you would and have the confidence that you can. But the problem is, this is what I always say about the Buffalo Bills now. Getting so hyper detailed on beating the Chiefs, which I get it because they were the only threat, has other teams gotten a whole different matchup that you're exposed against. You know, like when we say, when Parks came in and he said, TD, how does it feel to beat Atlanta? And he was making a joke because the Dolphins beat Atlanta. The Patriots beat Atlanta. But the reason why the Bills didn't beat Atlanta, number one, they were killing themselves. But number two, it was a bad matchup in certain areas. So is there other teams that the matchup can expose the Bills? So that's what they have to play out for now, to make sure that they really have a shot at doing something special. But this game in particular, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm not going to diminish your win, Dan. This was impressive. But the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe they are a shell of themselves. We get all excited because they rattle off a few wins and be like, here come the Chiefs. They're on their way again. But let's go over their wins. They beat the Commanders, who struggled all season. They beat the Raiders. Who cares? They beat the Ravens when the Ravens were at their lowest point. They beat the Giants. Again, who cares? The impressive win that they have, and this team is showing to be inconsistent themselves after that beatdown yesterday, is against the Lions. That's what made us say, oh, the Chiefs, yeah, they're about to be back. They just beat the Lions. But look at the Lions against Minnesota yesterday. So the Lions may not even be as ironclad as people think. So the Chiefs, I do not think they're going to make the playoffs, Dan. I do not think that they're actually going to make the playoffs. I really don't, but we'll see.
Better hope, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll jump in here quickly because I do have to go after I share my thoughts here quickly on this game. It's a great win for Buffalo, and the Bills are a team that notoriously play well in the regular season and are able to squeeze out a couple regular season wins against teams that are competitive, against teams that play till the final whistle. My thought now is, okay, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm gassed up, I'm excited after a win like this. But then you have to turn your attention focus to the playoffs, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. The next time the Chiefs and Bills meet in a big moment in the playoffs, the Bills have to come out on top because we've seen these regular season wins for only so long, and they have to win against this Kansas City Chiefs team when it matters. And if they do, they will be the new face of the NFL because nobody has been able to dethrone Mahomes in the AFC. Josh Allen hasn't been able to. Joe Burrow has not been able to. Lamar Jackson has not been able to. You look at those three plus Mahomes, those are the big four when it comes to the top four quarterbacks in most people's eyes in the National Football League. If Josh Allen is able to put together that performance in the postseason, you're having talks about him and Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen needs to be the one to break that trend and beat the Chiefs when it matters in the playoffs. Guys, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Great going back and forth with you all. Have a great night, folks.
Thanks for
Hey,
coming.
Connor,
through,
we
man.
appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Always happy to fill in. Shout out to my guy, Richie. Thanks for the invite. As always, see you guys next time. And as always, JTS, baby. Jets.
Shout out to Connor, man. Shout out to the guy.
Well, then I'll close what I was saying by summing it all up to let Bills fans know I truly do feel that the Bills are competitors this year, but I just still worry about that new fish coming in and knocking Buffalo off in the playoffs early in the playoffs because of the matchup or how they're built. But that was impressive regardless because the Chiefs know how to play you all well, typically as well. That was a big time win, and you didn't just do it. I feel like you took control of that game for the most part. So, yeah, man, Buffalo series, just not the Patriots.
Hey, man, look, and so Buffalo won this game the way that they like to win football games, right? They came in here and they said, we're going to beat the Chiefs with the same identity that they've been able to win every other football game they've won this year, and that is Josh Allen not turning the football over. He did not do that in this game. First time in a little bit here. He hasn't done that. But then, of course, also getting James Cook going. Because when you guys don't have a run game, it seems like this season, when you have to rely on Josh Allen to do it all by himself and pass the ball through the air 40 times, that's when the turnovers happen. That's when you guys start to lose games. That's what happened against the New England Patriots. They forced Josh Allen to turn the ball over multiple times, and they shut down James Cook. You lost the game. The following week when you played the Atlanta Falcons, James Cook really didn't do a whole lot. Josh Allen turns the football over. What happens? You guys lose that game. They came in here, they played disciplined football, and that's how they ultimately walked away with this one. It's hard for me to bump my chest. Look, I know that this is going to be big for Buffalo fans because it's always going to be Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes. It's always going to be that rivalry. It's always going to be that storyline. But I think there's some Buffalo fans out there that are bumping their chest so hard about this one, like they beat the number one team in the NFL, and that's not what the Kansas City Chiefs are. Two things cannot be true at the same time, that you can bump your chest about beating the Kansas City Chiefs like you beat the greatest team in the NFL, but then also go out there and say that the Kansas City Chiefs aren't this great team and they haven't beat good teams and try to demote who they are also. It's either one or the other. And you look at it, and the Chiefs have not been consistent this year. They dropped a few games early on in the season. They've dealt with injuries. They've been wildly inconsistent. And like TD said, they started to build some momentum. When you look at that Detroit Lions game, that's when we said, okay, are the Kansas City Chiefs actually back? But they didn't string enough wins together after that game for us to truly say, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are back. And yes, it was premature to put them down in the basement. The questions about the Chiefs are still out there. Like you guys have alluded to, they're third in the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're not in the current playoff picture right now. They're only in the hunt. And we'll see if they can get there at the end of the day. But all we know is the facts. And these things right now are the facts. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, you're going to have harder opponents this year. You're going to have to beat those opponents if you really want to make a statement. And it's still to be determined. You went out there, you won this game, but still nothing's new. We see you beat the Kansas City Chiefs every single year. It's nothing new. Let's see you go out there and do something new. If you want to tell me you're going to go to the Super Bowl and win it this year, if you want to tell me Buffalo's different than this year, then go out and do something different. But right now, this hasn't proven it to me. Right now, you took care of business. Don't get me wrong. It was a good win by Buffalo at the end of the day. But now string together wins like this. Josh Allen, string together games where you're not turning the football over anymore. James Cook, show us that you can string together games where you're going off for 100 yards consistently. And when they start to do that, we'll start talking more about Buffalo. But right now, this is just you guys doing what y'all do.
Beat the Dolphins and you're legitimate.
If you beat the Dolphins and you blow out the Dolphins, there's no takeaway. That's you guys taking care of business.
Kobe, what if they lose to the Dolphins? Then what?
If y'all lose to the Dolphins, you're done. You're done. That's
y'all
it.
Cook, man. We about to ruin y'all season.
Because Buffalo's a good team, right? Buffalo's one of the best teams in the NFL. So with that being said, you are supposed to go out and just put Tua into an early retirement. And if you don't do that, you're not a good team.
Man, I'm going to tell you now, Tua might beat him. But Kobe, I got a question for you. Who do you think is the best team in the AFC right now?
Right now, so heading into week 10?
Yep. Just give me one team. No qualifiers.
Past doesn't matter. We're only talking about 2025. Okay. If that's the case, it's the Colts. How can you not say it's the Colts right now?
So the Colts better than the Patriots?
Right now, I would say, yeah. I'm not going to put the Patriots at number one.
If y'all played each other, you would predict the Colts beat the Patriots.
I don't know. I'd have to look more deep into the numbers. We don't play them this season, and so I don't know their strengths and weaknesses versus ours.
I'm just saying, it's the first round. And what if it's the first round of playoffs?
All I know is that the Colts are a really good football team right now.
But what do they do well?
They pass the ball well. They run the ball well. Their defense gets takeaways.
Y'all have a top run defense.
That's true. I'm not saying the Patriots can't win that game. I'm just saying, if we're talking about who's the best team in the AFC right now, I am going to give it to the Colts.
I was just curious. All right, Dan.
Folks, we need to give a giant shout out to our good friends over on Sleeper. Folks, Sleeper is the #1 player prop platform on the market today. It's a very simple process. Build your parlay with anywhere between 2 to 6 players. If you accurately predict their game stats above and or below, you could be a big winner, up to 1,000x of your initial deposit. Signing up, you get a free $20 just for signing up. Monday Night Football is about to start here shortly. Go on ahead and take advantage of this promo. Terms and conditions apply. Always play responsibly.